going on? Welcome in A to Z Sports here live on a Wednesday, which means throwing shade. We're going to have a great show today because there's some new information about the NFL and how they're treating stadium capacity across the league. So we'll talk about that and what the NFL made a decision and announced yesterday with that latest report. Zach sent me an article from Yahoo yesterday, which is good news maybe for some cities, bad news for others, but we'll discuss that as well here on the show to start off Wednesday. Then, do fans matter? And as Zach has on the graphic, do we matter? How important are fans this year in sports in general? We'll discuss that and then throw in shade at the end of today's show. Zach, it's a shade that happens for me probably every 2 years. And it's back again. And it's a recurring thing. It's not an every month thing, not an every year thing, but a recurring shade that happens to me every 2 years. So we'll discuss that. Layla on IG Live says fans are very important. We're here with a quintuple broadcast. You guys are always very important to us on a day-to-day basis. So we know that, Layla. But Zach, welcome in. We're going to have a good show today.
Well, and the reason why I put we, Austin, is because I knew that for a full week straight you painted your face in two-tone blue, and I know how diehard you were that week.
I will say, as I was having to clean out my phone storage this week, I came across the screenshots of my face paint for those 5 days, and I did not delete them because I was like, you know what? These might be good for some content later on at some point. So be known that I am allowing myself to still be the butt end of a joke down the road. So just know that for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Unfortunately, Austin, I'm interested to hear what your shade is for the 2 year mark. Unfortunately, my shade is towards you.
Oh.
It's the most logical shade that I could come up with, right? You've got to. I text myself shades when I come up with them.
Yeah.
And out of all the shades that every Wednesday I got to make a decision. This was the one.
So, I don't even know what I did to you this week.
Look, it's not about me. It's not me. It's you.
Great. I didn't even do anything. I actually didn't do anything to you.
Yeah. Again, it's not me. It's not about me. It's not about Zach. It's about Austin. So we will talk about that. That will be a fun shade at the end of the show. Make sure you get your shade ready. Anybody you want to throw shade at, you've got a problem with, or something that's been going on. I know there's a lot obviously going on in the news. Not a lot going on in sports. Hopefully we will talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in the NFL. Before we get going, though, please share the show. Bottom right corner of your screen. If you're watching on Periscope/Twitter, you'll see those 3 little dots. Share the broadcast that way for us. Please share the broadcast around. We need to pop up in your Twitter followers timeline. That would help us out. Also, Facebook. What's going on, Facebookers? More people will pile in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. Hello, IG. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. We are live and we are ready to roll. Please share the show. Bottom left corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook, share now to public. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. We need to pop up in your YouTube alerts. Wherever you are, please share us around and we will get started here very, very shortly.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by TennesseeTickets.com. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports, Facebook, Instagram at A to Z Sports as well. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they truly do make everything happen for us and for you guys. If you want to buy tickets to NFL games and Titans games, the safest place to do it is TennesseeTickets.com. We'll talk more about that. TennesseeTickets.com, code Titans20 for $20 off your purchase, and they will actually give you your money back in full if you can't go to the game, unlike StubHub and those other places. So TennesseeTickets.com is where to go there. Renters Warehouse, the professional landlords in the Nashville area, renterswarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the pulse of fitness, got workout number 2 of the week today. 15-minute workout, EMS, electronic muscle stimulation. Science is real. The results are real. Mandu.com, your first workout's free. The Tucker Agency, if you need to save some money on your insurance, which we all do, TuckerTN.com is where to go. The average new customer saves 20% on their insurance, tuckertn.com, and calvinandsettle.com. They've got a great selection of hardwood floors and finishings, also a great way they handle their customer service. calvinandsettle.com is where to find them. Zach, you sent me this article that the NFL leaves it up to their individual teams to decide stadium capacity this fall for games. What was your initial reaction when you saw that creep across whatever timeline you were on at that point?
Well, and a lot more things have come out over the last weeks about sports and teams, testing positive, whether it's like Clemson players or Alabama players or
LSU players going to nightclubs.
Right. And, that happens. But I do think what it gave me a sense that they're already starting to work towards how they are going to do this. And then it also made me think that the NFL was like, look, this is not going to be under our watch. We're going to put this on the cities. And I think they're smart in doing that, but I also think that they deflected. That's a big decision, right?
Sure.
If the NFL came out and wanted to control things like they usually do, right? They usually like to have their hands around things saying, this is the way it's going to happen. We found that out when they came to the NFL draft here in Nashville of how they work, right? You do things their way. You've got to pass this criteria to get a credential. Then you got to go here, and then you can't go in here. They've got it all mapped out. They're smart, but they decided to take, and I like that they did this. The New York Giants and the state of their pandemic, or a part of the pandemic, is different than Nashville, is different from Jacksonville, is different from Kansas City in the Midwest. So I think this is one step in the direction where a decision will be made and they can kind of feed off of each other, right? If it's not full capacity, maybe one goes 75 or 50 or whatever. But I liked at least they're talking about it now here in June.
Yeah, well, you mentioned deflection, that this feels like the NFL deflecting on everybody else. That's how I felt back when this whole thing started in March, and you have all of the spring sports and college athletics get canceled, and the NCAA was like, no, it's up to schools to decide if you want to honor their scholarship for another year or not. So I found that funny that you brought up the deflection, because I thought the NCAA deflected when it came to that. But for the NFL, this is a smart move. And BMO on IG Live says he just joined. What did the NFL do? The NFL put out yesterday that it's up to individual teams to determine stadium capacity in 2020. And as Zach kind of pointed out, he's right. It's as simple as there are different local laws and state laws, county laws, as one NFL executive anonymously told The Athletic, that you can't just do one cookie cutter rule. It's not one size fits all for the NFL, because Nashville is very different than Jacksonville, is very different than New York and San Francisco and Seattle, because Seattle has been one of the worst areas. And what are the Seahawks going to do that have the 12th man? There's probably going to only be 12 guys there in Seattle, by the way, these things are trending. So here's the question we want to get to with this. Is the NFL allowing the teams to decide the stadium capacity? Is that a big deal, a small deal, or a no deal? Big deal, small deal, or no deal? Before we get to your answers and our answers, Zach, tell them about the Tucker Agency. Always a big deal to help you guys out.
Yeah, big deal to save some money right there. TuckerTN.com, Nashville's independent insurance agency. If you've lost some income, lost your job over the last couple of months due to coronavirus, maybe restructure the money that is already going out. You have to have insurance. If you have a car, you have car insurance. If you're a homeowner, you have homeowners insurance. If you rent, you should have renter's insurance. And if you have kids, you probably should have life insurance, God forbid something happens, right, for the protection of your family. Well, you can restructure that entire policy to save you some money, but still maintain the really good coverage. 20%, that's the number you should think of. When you call or email the Tucker Agency, the average customer saves 20%. Go back and go through your head and say, how much am I spending? Go 20%. That could be you back in your pocket. Email will@tuckertn.com. He is the head of the Tucker Agency. His team will help you out and your family out right there at tuckertn.com.
All right, A to Z Sports here live on a Wednesday. Don't forget, Code AZ30 gives you 30% off all orders, anything at shop.atozsportsnashville.com. Any of our gear, Zach and I are both wearing t-shirts today. Shop.atozsportsnashville.com is where to go. Code AZ30 to save 30% off any order there. So, Zach, the question is it a big deal, small deal, or no deal that the NFL is allowing individual teams to make decisions on what stadium capacity is in 2020? What are you seeing in the comment section so far?
Well, Bradley brings up, he says, I bet there's only 20,000 PSLs. Problem solves. Only PSLs in and no resale of tickets to the enemy. That kind of puts and gives, and I'd be curious if Bradley is a PSL holder, which if he was, that makes a lot of sense. I don't hate on that. If he's paying the money, he owns the seat, he would like to go. Rob says small deal. Robert says, hate to see it, but NFL stadiums will look like the third quarter of the preseason games. You don't want to see that. Jimmy on base says big deal. Mookie brings up the governor versus mayor, so he brings up the politics of this, which I do think is very interesting. Cameron says big deal. The Seahawks can now have 11 and a half men, which is a pretty good joke. But Jimmy follows up, says big deal because it's going to be causing local governments to argue. So they bring up the political portion of this, which is very valid. I'm glad that a couple of our viewers and listeners brought that up. And Buckethead says, it's definitely a big deal. Wear your damn masks, Nashville.
Yeah. Wear your damn mask, everybody. Wear your masks. Right?
I mean, wear your mask when they are required. Don't wear your mask when you're in your car by yourself.
Okay? Of course, Zach. Don't deflect off of that.
Deflect. People do that.
Yeah, people do that, but at least they're wearing their mask wherever they go. The people that are wearing their mask in their car are not the problem, so don't bitch at them. The people that are not wearing their mask when they go out in public and around other human beings, those people are the problems.
Don't wear your mask in your car. You look like an idiot.
That's fine. But wear your mask when you're not in your car and you're not in your house.
Wear your mask where it's mandatory.
Yes.
That's the only thing. You don't have to wear your mask when you're out in the park, okay? You don't. You crazy people.
That's what we're talking about. Wearing your mask in your car is silly.
Don't wear your mask when you're walking your dog down the damn street. You can wear your mask when you go to the grocery store or when you go to a restaurant.
That's the point that Buckethead is making. Okay.
But it needs to be clarified because, look, and so it brings up the point of, no. I'm glad you brought that up because you go to different portions and pockets of the United States, people think about these things differently, right?
County by county, not even pockets. County by county is very different.
Right? I was just down in Florida. You had some people didn't give a rip, didn't even own a mask probably. But then you have people probably in New York that do not even step out of their house without a mask until they step back in their house. So I do think that this is a big deal because I think it's the right decision. That's why it's a big deal. It will create some politics, but everybody has differences of opinion, and you have to follow. This is why and let me, I'm not telling you anything new, but sometimes this needs to be spelled out. It is the United States of America, right? That's what makes our country so great and the freedoms of what it is. It's not as great right now because of what all this going on, but it's state run. That's why we have thrived and done very well economically as a world power for so many years because it's state. So this is absolutely right. If your mayor or your governor, and they probably know how the state of their state better than Roger Goodell does sitting up in New York. So this is a big deal because I think it is the correct deal.
Yeah, real quick, Alex says the person that wears the mask in their car might be an idiot, but they're a safe idiot. And I'd rather
they're not. They're an idiot.
I'd rather have a safe idiot than an unsafe idiot.
That's so stupid.
I don't know why you're taking people wearing masks in their cars so
because it's ridiculous.
Yes, but they're
therefore they are doing something ridiculous. They should be called out for that.
All right, so Chad brings up an interesting point because I agree with you. It is a big deal that the NFL has allowed it to be stadium by stadium, team by team because and somebody asked a question on Facebook: is it state government or is it city government? the way it's described from the story that was written on The Athletic, local government, which I think it local. When I hear local, I think it's more local than state. I think it's more about the city that stadium is in, or that county that the stadium is in, and where the team operates. So for us here in Nashville, the Tennessee Titans will be following what Davidson County and the city of Nashville decide is right, not what the governor, Bill Lee, decides about the other like 96 counties in the state. So Nashville's been more strict and has been one phase behind surrounding counties, including Williamson and Sumner and others that are more lax when it comes to coronavirus. So I do think it is a big deal. Now, Chad on YouTube brings up a good question, saying, how will it affect salary caps next season if different capacities are allowed at different stadiums because teams are not all making the same money? What do you think about that? Because I think that's interesting because teams make different gate monies in general, right?
Well,
like
and
the Cowboys stadium, they make more money at their gate than the Jags do already
because they have higher bills, right? That's the hard part. That's the hard part, right? A person with a $30 million mansion has higher bills than somebody with a $300,000 house. So that's the difficult part. I don't even know if they would discuss a rev share. It's like the SEC, right? They take the portion and they distribute it out, but they also would have to take into account, some money is better than no money, right? But more money is better than some money. So I don't know how Jerry Jones is going to feel about that, or what is Stan Kroenke, of the owner of the Rams out in LA, who now has to pay off a brand new spanking stadium that he put a lot of capital up for, or Las Vegas. That's different than the Chiefs running Arrowhead that, is made of concrete, instead of like brand new 2020 titanium that is green because it's in LA. Like, it's a very good question. And I think BMO brought up a very good point. BMO's been on it here recently, watching the show on Instagram.
Yes.
Join him on IG. But he brings up the CDC, its recommendations, right? This is all in the eye of the beholder of the state. It will create issues, he brings up, once it goes to personal choice, right? Eventually, states and our government will have to rely on us as the people to make a personal choice whether I want to go into a grocery store and wear a mask or not wear a mask. That's the return of normalcy. I don't know when that's going to be, but that's where opinions start to clash.
Yeah, well, and Bebo says stadiums can mandate masks, and I believe,
and I think that would be smart, right?
Yes.
They may, like we talked about. I saw a comment. I can't remember. There's been more comments going up, getting mad at me, getting mad at people with masks on in the car. I said by themselves. If you're a ride share and you're a driver of an Uber, I understand that, right? There's more people in the car that you don't know. But if you're driving down the road by your own damn self, you can take your mask off. I want to clarify that. But it's personal choice eventually. I think stadiums absolutely should mandate masks if that's the case.
Yeah, and if you are anti-mask person and if you hate masks, then you guess what? You're not going to go to a game. And you have to be okay with that. If you're going to, I'm not talking about
coach trash trying to go into a McDonald's that says no shirt, no shoes, no service. Those guys can't go in there just because they don't follow the rules, like the rules.
Right, exactly. So I think this is a big deal. I don't think there's any other way it can be any other option besides a big deal that the NFL is now allowing individual teams to determine stadium capacity in 2020. How do you think this, Zach, will impact the Tennessee Titans? That's what I want to get to first, because we've talked about this more as on a broad level, comparing New York and Jacksonville and San Francisco and LA and other Seattle, other markets. But how will this impact the city of Nashville with what's been going on with the local government here, with the Tennessee Titans and Nissan Stadium? Before I get to that, I want to tell you guys about renterswarehouse.com. They're the professional landlords in the Nashville area, renterswarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There are so many ways you can use renterswarehouse.com, and they're under great demand right now, which is a great thing for you because maybe your mortgage is biting into your income more than it used to be. You can rent out a property to live in while you rent your home out to somebody else to help save some money, maybe even make a little bit of extra money during these crazy times. If you own Airbnbs, you can temporarily rent out that property for a few months. There are no binding contracts with Renters Warehouse. Go to renterswarehouse.com to find out how much your home can rent for.
Check out our podcast network as well. We got the Big Orange Podcast doing some really good things with all the stuff going on with Tennessee. We talked on Monday about Jeremy Pruitt trying to implement those black uniforms for the Black Lives Matter movement. They talked a little bit about that. They will look. The 615 session has been great over the last several months with some great interviews. That will continue. And the Tighten Up podcast, we have something special about the Tighten Up podcast coming soon. Very, very exciting. I have an answer to your question, Austin, because you asked how it will affect the Tennessee Titans.
Right.
Well, here's the first thing I would say. They don't have to worry about the upper deck because it's never full. Where's my ching? But
well, I'll say this. With social distancing rules, the upper deck for the Tennessee Titans will probably be more full than it normally would have been.
Yeah, or keep it the same. You're right. But on a serious note, I think you mentioned it earlier, Austin. What we've seen, and you can just go by history, right? History says that the mayor and the governor probably take more precautions in this state than maybe North Dakota or South Dakota, right? I don't know what those states are doing.
But less precaution than New York and New Jersey, and LA and Washington State. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've closed down, like Florida has seen a spike, but like Dade County around Miami, they've really tried to put a protection order about those beaches and stuff.
Well, it's like the metropolitan areas, right? The big cities have been
that's where NFL teams are. So that's the issue.
Which I just thought about something too. That's going to make things so much more difficult for colleges, for college football, because big college football programs are rarely in these big cities, unlike the NFL. Like Vanderbilt being in Nashville is an outlier. Normally, you've got college towns like Auburn, Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Athens, Georgia. They're going to have most likely more lax rules because they're under state restrictions rather than a local city government restriction. So that's just a little note there.
I could see Tennessee, and we're sitting here on a Wednesday at 8:30 on the 24th of June. I could see 50% for Tennessee. I think that I don't, but yeah, for the Titans, right? If they started at 50%, and and then they monitor the spike. So if the coronavirus goes down or goes up, they have the ability to move it up from 50 or down from 50. I think that would be a good negotiation between the city and all the Nashvillians and the professional football team. I think that 50%, I think it would be a win right now here on June 24th.
Yeah, it's real quick. George says Athens is very close to Atlanta, though. And I know for a fact that because of the story I told about me getting in trouble in Athens, that Athens is in Clark County, not in the same county that Atlanta is in.
But different mayors do different things. Look, I was in Oxford, I don't know how many weeks ago, and you couldn't go into a restaurant without a mask on. That's crazy. You can't even go into a restaurant, and then you have to sit down, take your mask off, eat your food, put your mask on, and then go. Like, that's weird. But that's a small town.
Well, Brentwood, Cool Springs is very close to Nashville. It's right next to it. Like there's a spot in Brentwood that's both Davidson and Williamson County, and they operate under different rules because they have different mayors of those two counties. So it's not about proximity to geographics. It's about where those county lines are, and NFL teams are within bigger cities, minus Green Bay. Green Bay, Wisconsin is not near really any metropolitan city in Wisconsin. So it's going to be interesting. And so how does it impact the Titans? I'm curious because Nashville in September is blazing hot. We know how hot those Titans games can be. And will they be able to start with a higher capacity in September and maybe month by month or even week by week decide how they want to approach the following games capacity rules, because October can also be very warm in Nashville, but then a week later, after it's being 80 degrees in October, it's down in the 50s, and you don't really know how the weather and the change of the weather is going to impact a potential second wave of the coronavirus. And so maybe I think it's going to be very fluid, week to week, nearly, or home game to home game for the Tennessee Titans, because of how Nashville weather is so crazy and can be so bipolar, literally, here in Nashville. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch, but I think the Titans can probably afford to start with a higher capacity than maybe other teams around the country, and maybe keep that thing a little longer.
All right, I do want to address two things. First, I'm glad they brought up this comment, and then on the other side, I do want to address the do we matter? Do fans actually matter? I have a strong opinion on if they matter or not, and I think it will be a good conversation. But first, I do want to address this, because this is prototypical, we've joked about this. But G-Mon Bay says, thought Heat was supposed to be good against the virus.
Which is why I said you start in September with a higher capacity percentage.
Right, but here's what I'm saying. The virus has gone down overall as far as the death rate. Like, this is what the mainstream media scares the absolute living you-know-what out of every single American, because they don't report this crap. And what it is the death rate has gone down. Testing has gone up. If testing goes up, positive cases go up. We should be concerned about if you die, okay? That should be our number one concern. But no, right. We are so fascinated and so infatuated by a positive test, a positive case, whether it's asymptomatic. We don't know what the hell the virus actually is. Like Tony Fauci. We should talk about him. I sat there and watched over an hour of him testify yesterday. I was doing work and I was listening to Tony Fauci. And you know what? That guy knows a little bit more than he did a couple of months ago, but he doesn't know a lot more of what he did a couple of months ago. This virus is getting better. It is not getting what it was to start. It's not killing all of the people it was.
Right.
But the news people don't report that.
So, and here's an interesting thing, because this is a little like dive into how our world has changed with social media, because the media can only report the information that it's given, right? And what are local governments giving for information? Because now with social media, because every mayor has their own Twitter, every mayor has their own Instagram and Facebook page, they can control the narrative that they want to put out there. So the mayor can say, we've had this many number of new positive tests, and leave it at that, because that's happening.
What's
right?
the death percentage of that?
And
but
they don't.
They have that. They have the information, and they don't give it.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. The government can now control the narrative that they want to put out there because of what social media has allowed, where there's not a member of the press that can ask questions, like when anybody puts out a statement on Twitter, like, you can reply with a question, but it's never going to get answered. I mean, so it's a very different way of how media operates, because what was the initial slogan for the coronavirus back in March and April? What? Flatten the curve. That was the slogan. For flatten the curve so we don't overload our hospitals and so we don't run out of ventilators. Has that been
accomplished?
Yes.
Mission accomplished.
Right. And
but
so
what's the mantra now?
I don't wear your mask. I don't know.
But that's the problem, right? And I do think, and I will say this, and this is just how it worked, right? We went through the coronavirus pandemic and the height of that, and then we went through the Black Lives Matter movement and the height of that, right? That was real, and that impacted, and I think that definitely, hopefully, will make some change in the future. But what's next, right? All of those things we still have to continually deal. But what is next? We need We need something to rally behind to give us hope of positivity instead of the media turning us into just and using fear, right? Fear. That's the number one thing. And it's really a tactic, right?
Well, fear sells because media companies are that. They are companies that need to make money, and fear sells. That's why for decades, whenever you turn on your local news, they talk about the car accidents and the robberies and the shootings, and they don't talk about the squirrel riding water skis like an anchor man. Like there's a reason why like fear sells, blood sells in media and in news. I learned that at a very early age.
Yeah, and Jason says, "I'm sorry for you that you swallow the media that feeds you."
Okay,
Like not everybody. Like I'm logical.
What are you talking about?
I'm calling out the media. I don't.
Yes,
believe
if
that.
Jason can't understand that we're literally describing the situation and not how we're drinking up what the media is giving us, then I'm sorry for Jason.
I just told you how ridiculous it is to wear masks. You really think that I'm on the media side? Come on. But I will say this. I think that we need to find something that will give us hope closer to the fall or something to rally behind. I think Americans did exactly what you said. We flattened the curve. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But the death rate is down. That is good. We need to start rallying around that death rate. Hospitals are no longer overrun. That is also a positive. How do we get to football? So let's move forward. We talked a little bit more about the politics.
Quick, Jason says that wasn't for you. That was Jason and George going back and forth. So fair. Have to correct that. Whenever we're wrong, get right as fast as you bleeping can. That's what they also teach you in journalism school as well. So let's move on to this. Do we matter? What and how important?
The media says no.
No. How important are fans to sports for the rest of this year? How important are fans to sports for the rest of this year? But first, Zach, tell people about where they can get their brand new floors.
Yes, brand new hardware floors at calvinandsuttle.com. Calvin and Suttle Inc., 615-448-6414. Give them a call, and it's very, very simple. They're going to call. You're going to call them. They're going to come to your house, take a look, use the CDC precautions, make sure that you're safe. But they'll say, if you need new hardwood floors in your kitchen or your dining room, your living room, rip up some of that carpet that your dog's been maybe peeing on for the last however many months, years, it's time to get some new hardwood floors. You can make sure that you get your perfect hardwood floors by going to their showroom, or they will bring samples in. 1 to 2 weeks, they'll call and order the material, and they will install. It's that quick, that simple, and that cost effective. They have a wide range of hardwood floors. 615-448-6414.
All right, A to Z Sports. Don't forget, shop.atozsportsnashville.com. We'll give you 30% off all of our gear with promo code AZ30. That's AZ30 at shop.atozsportsnashville.com when it comes to all of our gear. Asking you guys the question, how important are fans in the stands for sports for the rest of this year? Louis says fans make the sport, my opinion only. George says, well, I'm not going to read that comment. A different George says, so 3,000, I'm not going to get into that either. They're having their own conversation. Titans for Life says, they're important only for the money. They're important only for the money. What?
I would agree with that. I'm going to go the opposite direction, though. I think fans for this year, for the rest of 2020, have zero importance. Zero importance. I don't care about fans in 2020 being in stadiums. I want my sports back. Okay? And the only way, if fans, and I know they yield revenue, which makes the cycle go wrong. It's like, I'm not an idiot. I understand you have to have fans to pay the bills, to pay the players, to pay the owners. I get it. But if this 1 year we don't have any fans in the stands, but we have sports, I'm completely okay with that. And it turned my head yesterday. We had a business meeting at a restaurant, and they had live sports on. It was live European soccer.
Yeah.
And it made me feel something that I have not felt since the NBA closed down at like halftime of the Spurs game that one time, or it was the Nuggets game, whatever. Maybe the Spurs were playing the Nuggets. But that when they closed down at halftime, that I haven't felt that feeling of sports since. I've tried to recreate it on my Nintendo 64 as best I can, but that's not real. And so I say 0 because I don't care about sports, or I don't care about fans. I care about sports. That's how this year, in my opinion, if it goes that way, I'm not going to bitch and complain.
Greg says, I thought Zach said he didn't want it without fans about a month ago.
I didn't, but that was a month ago, and things have like drastically changed.
So I'm not going to come out here and call you a flip-flopper. I'm going to say that you've had your mind change because of new information and different things have evolved.
When it comes to like
the story has evolved, exactly.
Well, actually, let me correct him. What the conversation was a few weeks ago was, would I go to a game? So that's actually we're on different wavelengths on that, right? It's different conversation.
Well, Greg was bringing up a different conversation even from that. Ethan says no fans in the stands will just feel weird even if we're watching on TV. Zach, we watched a few minutes of an English Premier League game. Did you notice that there were no fans in the stands? Or
yesterday?
If there were,
yeah, I did.
I didn't. I watched
because they covered with like advertisements or logos like the Jags do.
Sure.
In the lower bowl. And
yeah, Jags were prepared by this.
Yes, it was different. They would pan to a player on a replay, and you could see nobody. And we couldn't hear the sound because we were in a restaurant. But I was okay with it because it was competition.
Yeah, and like I didn't even like. I was more in my eyes. My attention was on the individual replay of the shot on goal that was happening, not what was happening behind it. Like I didn't even really notice. Until Ethan brought that there were no fans there. I was just watching it. Oh, live soccer. How about that? Jason says, if fans aren't in the stadiums, they'll be crowding the bars. What's the difference? Well, the difference is individual bars can control their crowd better than a massive stadium. So, and massive stadiums are run by billionaire owners of teams where local bars are not run by billionaires. They're run by small businesses or
thousandaires.
I mean, there's a wide variety of people who own bars, right? But for a lot of point, they're run by smaller businesses that rely on that, who have employees who are servers that rely on that money. And stadium workers definitely rely on their money as well. But that's you work at Nissan Stadium, that's a seasonal job. You cannot live off of working 10 home games with 2 preseason games because you work at Nissan Stadium. That is an extra job to people who do that. Working as a server at a bar is a year-round thing where that might be your only way of income. And we've seen how that's been impacted across Nashville for sure. So I'm with you. Somehow on this Wednesday, I know you're throwing shade at me later on, but somehow I have agreed with you that it's a big deal that the NFL's made it up to teams to decide capacity, and that I agree that fans matter 0 for the rest of this year. The only thing that matters in sports is that games are played, because TV revenue is so massive that games have to happen for the leagues to continue to roll forward, so we can get out of this, so we can feel better about ourselves, so we can start to try to heal as a country and come together around sports. And really, if you want to get into college athletics, so smaller programs are not just chopped away because college football didn't happen. So fans matter 0. You just got to play the games. I agree with you.
And to what Powers Bartlett on IG says, it won't be the same. And they're absolutely right. It will not be the same, but it will be closer to what we love than having no sports at all. And I think here's something that we haven't really talked about on any of today's show. Major League Baseball finalized their deal yesterday, which is big because they were griping and moaning about money, which baseball players tend to do. But they're going to be the guinea pigs of all of this, right? Because they're going to try in July and August. The NFL's not going to try until September, maybe October. And if let's just call it like it is. If the guinea pigs die, they don't do the same thing to the new guinea pig, right? So, like, the NFL is going to learn, and they'll take that benefit to say, well, if the NBA tried to go to Florida and do a bubble, it didn't work, then they're not going to do that. Or the NHL or the MLB, what happens with that? I still think they need to really concentrate, and it's going to be hard. The testing is going to be so rigorous, and the virus is so rampant. It just is, and it's not going anywhere. We're going to get a ton of positive tests.
Yeah.
You kind of want to get it before you even enter. Like, for me, I want LeBron James to get it for 2 weeks before we start, because that's who I want to see play.
Right.
I want LeBron James and Anthony Davis to get COVID-19, recover from COVID-19, and get ready to play for the season. And that's weird and sadistic, but it's the truth.
Elo says, if you ever played a sport, players want to see the fans. It gives momentum. And, look, yes.
Well, this year ain't about momentum.
Right. Well, Elo and Zach, how many people watch you play pickup basketball with your buddies?
0.
Yeah. And do you guys still play hard and go after it and be competitive?
Some would say I play a little too hard.
Yeah. And everybody watched The Last Dance, right? Did we remember the footage of what happened when the Dream Team was practicing against each other in 1992? How many fans are watching the Dream Team practice in Barcelona in 1992? 0. And what did they do? They had the best basketball game that we never saw.
Now, because they were the best basketball players, but
True.
You do bring up a very good point, is what will make you play harder is the players that you're about to play against next game watching, right? Because you don't get that often, right?
Yeah.
LeBron doesn't watch Russell Westbrook play right before he plays him. And like right there watching live. You're going to try to impress the other. And that's a great Dream Team analogy because
yes.
Karl Malone's trying to impress, David Robinson or whoever.
Look, I played high school basketball when I was a freshman and sophomore playing JV. Nobody came to those damn games. Like, nobody goes to JV basketball games, but you know who was playing hard? Everybody, because that's the way they could earn their spot to go up to varsity where people actually do. So the fans, I get the point. Yes, fans in the grand scheme of things are very important to the sport. Fans in the stands, because it brings revenue. It gives home court, field, ice advantage, which gives a lot of the passion and the emotion that sports brings. But for 2020, play the games. That's the only thing that matters. The fans are basically close to irrelevant about being in the stands. Play the games to have it on TV. And as BMO says on IG Live, competitors compete. And that's what it's all about. They will go out there and play hard because they're playing against another NBA player who's trying to stop them from scoring. It's that simple.
Player's going to play.
Yes. And you look good, you feel good, you play good. That's also what I say there too. All right, A to Z Sports. Let's go ahead and get to our throwing shade segment. Zach is throwing shade at me. I have no idea what I did this week to piss Zach off that we haven't already talked about. Maybe I know something that Zach has talked about where he could be considered shade, but I don't know what the shade is that Zach is talking about. I think Zach froze on IG Live, so I don't know.
No, I did not go grab my shade.
You had to say your shade was on your phone?
Yeah, my shade was on my phone. I'll find out. You'll find out very soon.
Well, now you're making yourself all glitchy and sound like a robot because your finger's too close, and you left the Instagram altogether.
Well, I'm back. I'm back, baby. I want to request. Get me back in.
Well, you got to request to join back in. Did you?
I'm requesting.
Okay, there you go. So now I got to click on you.
And it automatically waved once I left. That was pretty fun.
Thanks for I don't know why you were unprepared to have your shade not only on your phone when you knew you had to use
you'll
your phone.
see. You'll see why. You will see why.
All right, so Zach is throwing shade at me for whatever reason. But first, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, where one 15-minute workout of full-body electronic muscle stimulation stimulates 5+ hours in the weight room. The science is real and the results are real. It's also a safe fitness routine and fitness program for you during these pandemic times when your normal gym is having restrictions. Mandu, the only thing that's changed with Mandu is the trainers wear masks. It's by appointment only. It's 2 people or less working out. So it's basically a private workout. They clean everything in between every appointment, and your first workout is free. So it is the perfect time to try Mandu. Your first workout is absolutely free. So check them out at mandu.com.
A to Z Sports. Don't forget to check out our shop. Look, get this sweet hat. Look at that. That thing it's got that raised logo. I've got one of those. Austin has one of those. You can have one of those. 30% off AZ30 promo code. Not only hats, but we've said until sports come back, we are going to give you 30% off everything in our shop. Shop.A2ZSportsNashville.com.
All right, Zach, because your shade is at me, I am going to go ahead and get my shade out of the way so we can have more time to go back and forth about why, whatever reason why you're throwing shade at me. So I mentioned, Zach, before the show, at the very beginning of the show, that my shade is something that comes up every 2 years because I typically get a new iPhone every 2 years. And then there's another iPhone that comes out after that. And then my current iPhone, that's about 2 years old, starts crawling like a damn infant who is just learning to crawl. No longer does my iPhone operate quickly. It takes a long ass time to do a simple thing like post on Instagram or load a news feed or open an app or close an app or do anything. And I cannot stand that every 2 years, Apple on purpose, they've admitted to this, is slowing down my iPhone to force me to go spend $1,000 or more on a brand new iPhone. Apple, I hate you for this. It's driving me crazy.
Do you think that this is going to be is Apple going to release their phone traditionally? I mean, look, they've got their money that they have to make going in, but because a lot of their stuff is made in China and that's been a full year, right, of a setback, I'd be curious. Usually the new phone comes out in October, November, December. Do you think that they'll even have a phone?
Yes.
You think
because
so?
People are addicted to Apple. And G-Man says, throwing shade on Austin for having an iPhone 3. No, it's an X. It's an X, and it's just over 2 years old. And everybody's, then you got the people say, do what I do. Go to Android. Tom said, that's why Android.
Don't do that.
No, I'm not going Android because I admit it. I'm a sucker to Apple because I have Apple everything. I got an iPad, I got a MacBook, I got AirPods, and I got an iPhone because they all work beautifully in unison, and it makes my job and our business run smoother because we all have Apple products so we can communicate clearly. So I'm not switching to Android. I can't do it. Do I judge people when their texts pop up as green bubbles instead of blue bubbles? Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, I think we all do. All of us Apple users.
But still, throwing shade because Apple admits to slowing down their phones so you buy new ones.
So here is my shade. My shade came as I was over the weekend at the beach, and our own Buck Rising took it upon himself to go with the trend, right? Millennial himself, weird millennial at that, but to go with the trend. And what he did was he went to this face app that turned all of us into women, okay? And I'm going to show you what I look like, what Austin looks like, and what Buck looks like right up here, all right? This is what we look like as women. And IG, jump on over to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, or Twitch to see this.
Yeah, because you can't watch this on IG Live.
And that's an Instagram problem, not a to Z problem. But this is what we look like, okay? Cover your eyes. But I am on the left, Austin is in the middle, and Buck, who looks literally 12 to maybe 13 and a half, is on the right.
Yes.
This is Buck's doing.
Yes.
So we get a text message, mind you, while I'm on vacation of Austin getting upset at me. Really good content, really funny, thinking that I just outed everybody.
Because this is a very Zach thing to do.
And it's smart, and it got a lot of likes, and it got a lot of play. And what is our job? Is to get a lot of likes, get a lot of play, and throw a lot of content out. That does not mean that's not my shade though, because you look at this picture. Look, this was from however many years ago. It was my profile picture.
Austin was from.
Hey, Austin, I'm throwing shade. You can have your turn in court. Not right now though.
Yeah.
And this is my problem. The overall, mine was from however many years ago when we had our photo shoot.
2.
Austin was from a couple of years ago when we had
3.
our photo shoot, and Buck is sitting there. And that was one of his appearances on one of the news stations. So here is the funniest thing and the shade of what I need to bring up. Austin, and this is who Austin is at times, self-conscious and cares what people think at times. Not all the time, but self-conscious, yes, and cares what people think at times. I am the polar opposite. That's probably why it's A and Z. I don't give a damn of what people think, and I'm not self-conscious. But I think it's funny when Austin gets caught in these modes. And so what did Austin do? Austin, easily out of these 3, he is the butt ugliest of us all.
Yes.
But at the same time, you've turned into a woman, right? So there's going to be some change and some shock value of, I know you as a man, not as a woman. Oh my gosh, that's you as a woman. That's what the Face app does. Well, what did Austin do? He got very self-conscious and he got butt hurt.
Well, because he was it.
Hey, stop. You will have your day. But he got butt hurt because he was an uggo. So what did he do? He took a new picture to make him more attractive. That is the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. And I wasn't going to just have his picture up here. I want uggo right there in the middle. Because you're not going to get that. But he took a new picture to make himself prettier as a woman. Well, that's the most ridiculous thing. And I could not wait to throw shade on you. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I thought, it was funny. I thought it was funny. But here's the thing. Buck, on purpose, screwed me over. Maybe because he knew I would react that way.
He doesn't know what the Face app's going to do.
Yes, he does. Yes,
and he's also not going to go look at a bunch of pictures of you to make sure you're pretty.
So let me show you this.
It's you.
So Hunter says very valid shade. I agree. This is hilarious. This is great. It's beautiful shade, and I love that you brought it up because it is funny. But Buck, I had not even looked at the Face app gender thing, and I was hoping that it never came up with us because I thought it was weird. But there are 2 versions of female gender swaps. There's the one version that you 2 both have that makes you look more glamorous and has the better hair. And then there's another version of the female that makes you look less glamorous and has ugly, weird hair. And so Buck gave you and him the good one and gave me the bad one on purpose. And
do you know what you look like with the glamorous hair on that picture though?
No, because I don't have.
So maybe it's the same.
I will say
how you are. You were born that way.
Right. And L Train says, Austin, why do you care? Look, I have worked really, really hard on my health and how the in shapeness that I am. And this was in 2017. My picture was 3 years old. Zach's was 2 years old, and Buck's was in the last year or so. I look very different over the last 3 years. I really do. It's crazy. It is crazy of how different
I'm really pretty. Trust me.
No, but you can tell the difference in how I look as a person from 2017 to 2020.
I don't look that literally this is what my first thought was. And this is no shade on them. It's just there's a reason why WNBA players aren't pageant queens. I look like a WNBA player that has got a pretty good 16-foot jump shot, but probably you're not going to go up in a grocery store and be like, damn, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life, right? That is not me in that picture. So I didn't get butthurt and go download this app. The funniest thing, did you already have the app downloaded?
Well, yeah, I did because we made ourselves look old the year before.
But you had to re-download it. That's the other funny thing because that was a year ago. You had to re-download it.
Yeah, I did. I did have to re-download it.
Yeah, so you re-downloaded the app to make yourself prettier. That's my shade, and that's why it's hilarious.
Greg says this should be the before and after Mandu commercial. that's my new Mandu.
Ostina? Is that?
Well, I think. Here's the funny thing. Do you think I look like Anne Hathaway in the second one?
Oh my gosh, give me a break. I'm over. I'm done. The show's done. I'm not gonna you literally, I don't know how many pictures you took of your face to try to get you prettier, but don't compare your pretty face to Anne freaking Hathaway.
I think I favor Anne Hathaway.
Oh my God.
Other people
shows your self-consciousness.
No,
it shows your insecurity.
No, somebody on Twitter said Anne Hathaway. A buddy texted me and said Anne Hathaway, and my wife said Anne Hathaway.
Well, of course your wife's gonna say Anne Hathaway. She's your wife. If she said you looked like Melissa McCarthy, you wouldn't be talking about
it. Zach, what about the random guy I've never met on Twitter who said I looked like Anne Hathaway? What about him?
Don't care about him. That's the premise of the segment.
I can't care about my biased wife, in your opinion, but the unbiased guy, I also can't care about.
You really shouldn't care about either of them in the perception of how they think of you. If your wife loves you, she loves you, which I would assume that's
like, obviously, yeah.
If Bill in his parents' basement, Bill 7569, says something. You don't even know if that guy's real either. But the premise of the shade behind it. The premise of the shade is that you don't need to care about what other people think
about my female self. Yeah, I know. Yeah, look, it was funny. I had fun with it. I was laughing on Friday when it happened.
But you did take offense to it, right?
Yeah, because Buck made you guys look good. Like, he clearly picked the good-looking gender swap for both of you, and he didn't for me. He made that decision. And look, I think it was great.
I think if I would have been the ugliest one out of them, I would have just responded, woof. That's all. I would not have gone out of my way to make myself pretty. It's like the guy in the mirror putting lipstick on.
Steve Buscemi?
Yeah.
Oh, man. George says, need Buck to address this. Buck is on vacation. What do you think about, how do you feel about this, Zach? Buck has deleted his Facebook and his Twitter from his phone.
It's smart. I mean, look, I have self-control. Well, as you know, my view has self-control, but I try when I leave on vacation, like we're about to go on vacation. I'm not going to be, I unplug. That's my point. I unplug. Especially, I'm about to go to my ranch in Texas where I don't get any service. It's actually the best thing. I go off the grid. So yes. I respect Buck for doing that because we know Buck pretty well, Austin. We've gotten to know him over the last year. That dude is on his phone, right? He is connected. He is
super millennial.
The number of notifications that guy has on is ridiculous. So I'm proud of Buck, honestly.
I agree. I told him, I texted him, I was like, you know what? Good for you. I'm surprised that he made that decision because I do think Buck is addicted to Twitter. Now, he didn't delete Instagram, so he's still on the gram.
So here's the other thing, and I wasn't going to turn this thing because I did think about this, Jared, which is a good comment. It's funny, but I was going, and I knew somebody would say it, is I was going to put our pictures up and then put a comment like Jared has up there, which ones you got. But I decided to not go that route. I was
it was a good thing.
I think that, and I thought that you would be curious to know which one of those would you be? Date, marry, or smash?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's which me are you taking? 2017 me or 2020 me?
This shade has been one of my favorite shades of all time.
I'm glad you did it. I think it's funny, and I'm okay with having myself be the butt end of a joke. That's completely cool with me.
The Buck end of a joke.
Yes, and look, and maybe this was like the inside brilliance of Buck doing this is that he purposely made me look the worst
He's learning.
because he knew how I would react to it, and it would become more. It would get more out of it. So,
Smart.
and I told Buck after I texted our group and I said, Zach, I attacked you. And then I said, apologies, Zach.
I was on the beach getting wasted.
I said, apologies, Zach. That was Buck. And then I said, Buck, you should take that as a compliment that I thought your content was Zach's. It shows you're growing. So look, overall win. Overall win.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's shade for the day. Tomorrow we are live at Mandu. We'll have a good Titan show. I think what we're going to do, so here's the deal for everybody that's stuck around towards the end of the show. It's been a longer show. Well, it actually hasn't, but it's been a really good discussion, especially towards the end. But here's kind of the situation. Tomorrow we're live at Mandu. It's going to be a good show. We're going to be talking about Derrick Henry unless some other news pops up. Good Derrick Henry discussion because we'll take 2 weeks off like we usually do at the end of June, beginning of July to take our vacations. Buck, look, you'll still get content, right? So don't worry about that at 8 a.m. But we will have a Derrick Henry conversation because a lot could happen in 2 weeks. So Stay tuned to that tomorrow. That will be a good show.
Yeah, real quick, IG Live is heading out of here. So just to reiterate that, Zach and I will be off for 2 weeks after this week. But Buck Rising will be doing prime time at 8 a.m. So you'll still get a daily show. But Zach and I need 2 weeks to reset because the plan is to have a kick-ass football season once we get back. So we got to prep for that. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate the support. And we will see you guys tomorrow live at Mandu in Green Hills, talking Derrick Henry in that contract negotiation that's has its clock ticking down. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.
Adios.